Hey guys, it's itslizard here, and as of today, or at least a couple weeks ago, I've been practicing bridging in Minecraft for 1 year. Now in today's video, I really want to take you guys on that journey of what this past year has been like for me, going from slow bridging all the way up until telebridging. It's been an absolutely crazy journey, and I really just want to share it with each and every one of you. And with that being said, if you do end up enjoying the video, please consider subscribing. And yeah, let's get straight into it.
Count what you have now, don't count what you don't have.
Now, our journey begins in late July of 2020 when I posted a video to my YouTube channel called The Easiest Way to Speed Bridge / Ninja Bridge. In this video, I was demonstrating my speed bridging ability that I had recently learned in hopes that I could help other people learn how to do it themselves. In the video, you can see me doing a straight back speed bridge on 1.16, which of course is one of the slowest ways to speed bridge. Now at the time, I'm gonna be honest, I thought this was pretty good, but now as we know today, this was only a small stepping stone to what was about to become of my bridging ability. Now, of course, speed bridging wasn't quite gonna cut it for me. I wanted to push myself to the very limit, and I knew speed bridging was no place to stop. The biggest issue I ran into was that I had no idea how to drag click. So over the next couple of months, I began to learn how to drag click with my redragon mouse, and over time, I learned how to drag click and began to learn Breezely. On November 10th of 2020, I posted a video of me doing Breezely bridging in Bedwars and on MC Play HD. This was one of the first instances of me showing off my non-shift bridge on YouTube, and it was pretty monumental for me. Just a few days before the end of 2020, I posted a video called I Learned How to God Bridge in Hypixel Bedwars. The God bridges in the video weren't amazing by any standards, but they were definitely a huge step up from the Breezely bridging I'd done in the past. When that video was posted, it was about the same time I also failed my full God bridge by just like 2 or 3 blocks. It was so disappointing. The issue with me failing that full God bridge by only a couple of blocks was that it was super demotivating for me, and it caused me to stop trying to improve my bridging for a couple weeks afterwards. In the time I took off from improving my personal best, I practiced consistency. I went back to things like Breezely bridging until I could get them 20 to 40 blocks in a row without falling almost every single time. Around this time I also learned to moonwalk because I had skipped from Breezely bridging all the way to God bridging, and I felt it was just a fun bridge to learn in between. Little did I know that only a month later, I would be achieving something absolutely phenomenal. In early February, I finally got my full God bridge. The bridge took me nearly 15,000 attempts on MC Play HD long because of course the short mode didn't exist back then. All I really remember was just being so excited to finally have achieved this milestone, and I couldn't wait to see what would happen in the future. I spent the greater part of the next few months improving my clutching to get slightly faster times on my God bridge. I was quickly able to bring that 12.25 down all the way below 12 seconds, and slowly I began chipping away at it until I had finally achieved an 11.8. By this point, I was a little tired of the long mode, and I decided I needed something new. Around this time is when the short mode came out on MC Play HD, and this quickly became the main focus of my bridging. It only took me a couple hours to get my first full God bridge on short mode. Over the next few weeks, I began to work on my clutching ability, quickly bringing my time on short all the way down from 6.75 to 6.3. Now, just as there had been with the long mode, I knew that there was slightly better times I could get, and if I kept practicing, I could get my 6.3 down to a 6.2 using similar methods. I felt this wasn't really worth my time, and I decided to start learning telebridge. And this is where the story starts to get interesting. Up until the point of learning telebridging, I hadn't learned how to hold my mouse while drag clicking. This meant that I could do non-shift bridges that meant I only looked in one direction, but for telly where you're constantly moving your mouse as you're drag clicking, this meant I was going to have to make some adjustments. Because of how bad I was at holding my mouse while drag clicking with my Model O, I decided to start learning telebridging with butterfly clicking. Now if there's anyone who's looking to do this, I highly recommend against it, and I'm going to show you why right now. Over the next few weeks, I practiced pretty much every day on my telebridge, except the thing is, it wasn't really a telly. You see, in order for telebridging to be faster than a God bridge, you have to turn almost 180 degrees and tap W between each telly. What I was doing was going backwards, spamming a bunch of blocks, and then quickly whipping my mouse a tiny little bit to feel like it was a telebridge, but it really wasn't. As I wasn't tapping W, even if I had finished the bridge all the way, it was going to be a lot slower than a real telly. Even though I was fully aware that I was probably never going to get a full telly with butterfly clicking, I decided to keep at it because I knew it would help me in the future when I learned how to hold my mouse to drag click. Eventually I decided there was really no other way around it, and I decided to invest in a drag clicking mouse. I bought the Bloody A70, which is really good for long dragging because it's popular in the MLG Rush community, and it also works really well for bridging. Within minutes of opening the mouse once I got it, I was already able to hold my mouse and drag click, and I knew I had made the right choice. Now that I could hold my mouse when I drag clicked, the journey was about to begin. When I first began learning how to telebridge, the hardest part by far was the first telly. I found it way easier to do a proper telebridge on the second, third, fourth, and fifth tellies than I did on the first. Over the course of learning how to telebridge, I came up with a ton of different alternatives for the 5 to 6 blocks that most players want. I experimented quite a bit to find some ways that felt a little more comfortable and more consistent, even though they were a bit slower. Even though these first tellies slowed me down, they really were good for helping me practice what it was like to get farther and farther into the telly. It got to the point where right when I was on the edge of finally making a full telebridge, the hardest part for me was still the first telly. When I began learning how to telebridge on MC Play HD's short mode, I had less than 10,000 attempts on it. By the time I was at 20 to 30,000 attempts, I felt I was starting to get closer, but it took me over 50,000 attempts before I finally got the real thing. Over the course of those tens of thousands of failed telebridges, I had a lot of close calls. There were times where I would get 4 tellies in a row and fail the 5th one. Earlier in the video, I talked about how failing the full long gob bridge had demotivated me a ton, but this really wasn't the case for telebridging. Every time I failed the telebridge by a few blocks, it was really motivating because I knew how close I was to this goal that I'd been working towards. In my mind, I knew I was very close to getting the full telly, and I didn't want anything standing in my way. Going into the last few thousand of attempts before I got the real thing, I knew it was just a matter of nerves. I probably failed somewhere between 20 and 50 times on the final telly before I finally got it. After spending so much time to achieve a goal, every time I got close, I tended to panic and mess up. The issue I faced was that I knew there was really no other way around it than to just keep trying. And that's exactly what I did. The good thing is, by this point, I knew how close I was, and I just needed to push for those final few attempts until I got it. The funny thing about those last few thousand attempts is I actually did get a few full telebridges. I got 2 full tellies with terrible form that both landed me at 6.3 seconds, which really only tied my personal best from before. And then, on the 24th of July, it finally happened. The funny thing is, when I got my full telly, I wasn't even really paying attention. I was kind of mindlessly bridging because I had nothing better to do that day, and out of nowhere, I realized my 5th telly wasn't going to be a fail. I knew that all the tellies before had been good enough that this time was about to be sub 6. And during those final milliseconds of me falling down onto the plate, I started to celebrate. I landed on the plate, the time said 5.95. The thing is, I didn't really care. I knew this wasn't a perfect telebridge because I held space, but I didn't even care. A sub 6 time was all I had been aiming for the past couple of months, and I had finally got it. A couple days later, I actually got a second full telebridge, and then a couple days after that, I got a full telly on greev.eu. In the past 2 weeks since I got these full tellies, I've been practicing tapping space instead of holding it. So far, I've yet to break my personal best, but I've had a couple insane fails, and I'm certain it won't be long before that time drops even lower. And with that being said, that pretty much brings us up to date on 1 full year of bridging. The crazy thing is, my bridging journey started on July 23rd, and my full telly was on July 24th. 1 year and 1 day took me from speed bridging to full telly. It's been an absolutely crazy journey, and I really have no plans to stop improving. Please consider subscribing.
Count what you have now, don't count what you don't have.